What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Half-Ass Pod, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's a big one. We are going to review a movie that some people may deem as the starter to spaghetti westerns. Um, a Fistful of Dollars, ladies and gentlemen. Um, but before we get into Fistful of Dollars, before we get into Clint Eastwood and Sergio Leone, Let's let's see who we got here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we have over here, we got Smith. Smith, please say what's up to the people, man.
What's up?
And down here, we've got the author, the editor, the creator, the end all and be all of not only Walter Paisley Cafe, but Spadal, Mark Platt. Mark, say what's up to the people.
Happy Tuesday, everybody.
And ladies and gentlemen, we have quite the review for you here tonight. But in order to start us off here, we're gonna get a little lesson from Mark here about a fistful of dollars and what this movie's about, and pretty much kind of like what the background of this movie is.
All right. Well, A Fistful of Dollars was directed by Sergio Leone, and the music was by Ennio Morricone. And those names are very important because those are the key players in what was later called spaghetti westerns in the United States, therefore referring to the Italian origins of such films. Sergio Leone and Ennio Morricone are Italian. The crew was Italian. However, the production of the film was also Spanish and West German production. It was filmed in Spain. The deserts of Spain gave it a southwest United States sort of look. This film begins in a border town. That's a border of Mexico and United States, and the town is called San Miguel. And Clint Eastwood, whose career was pretty much launched. This launched him to stardom. He had been in a show called Rawhide, so he's kind of known for westerns. Once he got away from that, he didn't have much luck in U.S. films, and then ended up working with Sergio Leone, who pretty much came up with the idea for this film after watching an Akira Kurosawa film that was released in 1961 called Yojimbo, which means bodyguard in Japanese. And eventually he was sued for making a bit too close of a remake of said samurai film. So anyway, we start off in San Miguel. The stranger comes into town. Clint Eastwood is playing the stranger. He does not have a name. Although the coffin maker calls him Joe, it's kind of like the way somebody calls somebody Buddy or Mac or something like that. He has not been given a name. And he ends up... Yeah, something like that, right. Yeah, so he ends up going into the cantina of Silvanito after he was harassed by four of the local chucklehead thugs. They shoot at his mule, and his mule runs away, and he ends up in front of Silvantino's cantina, and he's informed of a feud between the Rojo brothers and the sheriff, John Baxter, and his associates and family. So there's this feud going on, and we find out that the stranger, not only is he quite the sharpshooting gunfighter, but he's also quite a schemer. And he ends up pitting these feuding factions against one another, with his clever ruses, and ends up making a lot of money in the meantime.
And I think, watching this movie kind of made me, especially just being a creator, period. It's just like, how come we haven't gotten the same kind of minds that we've gotten, in at least in this era of westerns, right? You know, you're talking about Sergio Leone, or is it Leone or Leone?
Leone.
Leone. So Sergio Leone, like the way his mind was working in terms of his trilogies, because as because after doing like a little bit of research after watching this movie and seeing that what a lot of the audience thought was connected with his trilogy, a lot of people saying that they aren't connected, and I'm like, damn, this is kind of crazy. The fact that you have these three movies that everyone after all this time thought was connected and thought was telling one whole story, and then it turns out that the other half of the audience is like, maybe I don't think they were telling one story with these three different movies. So I mean, it's very intriguing. So sitting back and watching this movie with damn near pretty much fresh eyes. I mean, I still remember sitting down with my dad as a kid and actually watching this movie. But I don't remember anything about it. I just remember, oh, Clint Eastwood. Yeah, of course. One of the best guys in westerns. But sitting down and actually watching it, I'm like, man, the way the way Sergio Leone did with his movies was that you had a character that he didn't have to say a word. This cat didn't have to say a word. All you had to do was get him to put a cigar in his mouth, light it up, sit down, and stare at who he was going to kill for 2 minutes. That's all you pretty much had to do in this fucking movie. And it still got over it. It still hit big with the audience. I mean, Smith, after watching your first, your first, I guess, sit down of this movie, what were your thoughts?
Well, I didn't know that this was like the big break for spaghetti westerns. Right. That's not wrong in saying that, I don't think. But
No, it's right wrong.
for me, this is like the iconic western. So when you think about like John Wayne and those things, I don't even remember those as a kid. I remember seeing Clint Eastwood though. So it's weird that this is like the revival that people remember. But yeah, great film. I mean, you can't really go wrong with Clint Eastwood. However, his iconic squint or whatever is because they had like some weird gas lamps on set, because this was in like 1960, and I guess they didn't have like LED fucking stage lighting. So he's looking at the lamps.
So Mark, what about you? What was your first thought after watching this? I know you probably have seen this before in your adult life. I'm sure on a rainy day or something. But after watching this after a long time, what was your first thought?
Well, yeah, it still lives up to its legacy. Watching it with with fresher eyes and seeing the way Leone. I mean, he definitely achieved what he intended to do. I did a little research myself. He not only just took from a little bit of John Ford, who was the director that was kind of the iconic director of westerns prior to Leone. He did like The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, things like this, and John Ford was known for grand, sort of wide screen type shots, with big blue sky and desert and things like this. But he also brought in the drama that Kurosawa had. He also said that he wanted it to have sort of an operatic feel, which is where you get a lot of the dramatic close-ups, where the close-ups aren't just for reaction shots. There have been close-ups in westerns before, but normally they were just reaction, facial expression shots to something somebody said or whatever. But Leone was using close-ups, like you said, the silent stare, and then Smith, the accidental yet iconic squint. These things came into being as a result of this film, and then sort of became, quite a thing for Leone, and then even Clint Eastwood later on, who brought his films back to the United States and was doing some work with people there in the spirit of that. So yeah, definitely that. I love the way this film builds drama. I love the anti-hero aspect of The Stranger, because before that it was just getting, I don't know, a lot of critics talk about how the Western genre was getting stale. We brought this up on this show before about worrying about the superhero genre. Like, when is it going to get stale? What's going to change? What's going to be the new trend? Is it going to be another movie trend? I mean, because westerns hadn't completely gone away at this time, they were just on the decline, and this rebooted it, at least for the United States, and then therefore afterward worldwide.
And this is the first movie we've reviewed too. But might I add that none of us three were alive when this movie came out. So we kind of all three watched this movie, a little bit after the wave hit of the Western genre. And I'm still trying to figure out, like, I still haven't been able to like actually like sit down and like go through, like, I guess, different documentaries and different interviews of like really how and how fast, not just how it happened, but how fast did this genre die? Because it's such a great genre. Just even looking back at it, it's like, man, how could this have died? How could this genre of the Lone Ranger, going out there, or the stranger in this case, going out there, this movie brought a pretty good perspective too, and not one that I ever remember with this movie was that he's actually caught in between two different sides of quote unquote the town, right? You had the Baxters, and you had, what was the other group's name? The main group?
The Rojo brothers.
Yeah, the Rojo brothers. And man, just that whole aspect of having this character caught in the middle between that, and him saying pretty much what they were saying about the Kurosawa movie, which was like, "Hey, I come work for you, I come work for you," and I mean, I enjoyed that fucking aspect. I mean, in terms of this movie, and Mark, I'll start with you. What exactly? I guess I can't really ask what surprised you, but what part of this movie actually really made you say, you know what, this movie's got something. It's got something that no other Western or no other genre movie has. And what was that for you, Mark?
Well, I think one of the things that was quite revolutionary in a way, just a different aspect, was that ultimately, I mean, it kind of teases maybe where it's going, but I think ultimately this character, this anti-hero of the stranger, is on his own side. I mean, he kind of does something heroic, so, you have to put in the little hero aspect of the anti-hero. How do you distinguish an anti-hero from the villain? Because if you recall, he helps Julio and Marisol with their son Jesus, get away from sort of where they are in between. So, I mean, he comes out to be a hero, but it also shows that he's still in between, because he helps these people that are caught in between. They're not really of either faction. They're just being used as pawns in this big game of these smugglers, these disputing smugglers in this town. So yeah, just the idea, and maybe we see that more now, but it really wasn't done back then. And then just seeing that in the hands of Clint Eastwood, who just commanded this sort of silent, whatever type. I mean, of course, he definitely had lines. It wasn't like he never said anything, but his words weren't very wasted. I mean, that kind of became his trademark later on. I mean, you even saw that in the Dirty Harry films of later, where he wasted few words and few bullets. Just that type of tough guy. And ultimately he's on his own side.
Smith, what about you? What about this movie really made you say, you know what, this movie is, even though it was made in '64, this movie was some next level stuff, and I can see why it started out the spaghetti westerns?
Oh, yeah, well, that is a very tough question, because I was born nowhere near to this release, as well as every other Western movie that exists, probably. But But certainly, Mark touched on a lot of aspects of the whole vigilante thing, and we can see, as well as the stranger who wanders into town. I'm no Western expert, but I think that wasn't done very often. You can see how that's influenced a lot of stuff today, like Rango, Fallout New Vegas, just off the top of my head. So you can see what they did there, which was I guess it was a big deal for the time. That's what I got.
Yeah, I mean, that scene where he was not necessarily trapped, but where they caught him. This was right before they burned down the house with the Baxters in it, right? So where he was caught after, I believe he saved Marisol. Yeah, I think that's how you say her name, Marisol.
Yeah,
After he saved her, and he got caught by the Rojo brothers, and they're like, you could do whatever you want to him, just make sure he talks or whatever. And they left, and then they come back, and he I forgot where he was trapped inside of, and he got out of that room, and he's crawling out, and then he's hiding in that little part in the hallway, and then they come in and they go through the door, and all this dude does, still no words. All he does is crawl back out. I mean, it's kind of like watching. I hate to compare it to anything that was made today, like in today's time, but it's one of those movies where it's like it had to have influenced what they do now, where you create these characters. I mean, look at John Wick. I mean, a character that doesn't really say too much, but does all of this action. And I think that, going back to, the good, the bad, and the ugly, A Fistful of Dollars, like these kind of movies, and you getting this Clint Eastwood character, this character of Clint Eastwood. I mean, he kind of makes this his own thing. He makes it like his own mold of a person, even though it's fictional, right? That scene where he just takes the match and just throws it in there, and then, oh, dude, that is amazing. I love that part. I fucking love that part. But again, it doesn't take much for me to get excited when it comes to any kind of movie that has action in it. So I want to move on to a part where pretty much where you guys, I'm sure you guys thought, you know what? It's got me sold. It's got me sold. And that is when he takes out his gun and he just shoots everybody. He just shoots everybody. Like I can't get over that. I just can't get over it. I was sitting there. I watched this last night. I'm laying there in bed and I'm just like, I was like, no fucking way he just did that shit.
Yeah, there was quite a body count in this movie.
Jesus Christ, I know. Like more of a body count than the Freddy movie that we reviewed last week.
Absolutely.
More than every single one combined. Like,
yeah. I mean, you also got to consider the scene with the Gatling gun, where they at the border where they had the big thing of gold. Then
oh shit, I
swipe back the canvas and just mow down the fucking American. Oh no, it was the Mexican army that was there. Yeah. Yeah, because they had killed all the American soldiers to dress up as them for the big exchange and then mowed everybody down. Yeah, that was brutal. Yeah, which was the way they introduced Ramon, who's the main antagonist of the film. Ramon was incredibly brutal.
True that. And before I forget this, shout out to Jaron. Jaron says, Yo, thank you for coming through here, supporting the channel. Jaron said on the post that I made yesterday about this movie, he said this is one of his favorite movies of all time. So, hey, Fistful of Dollars definitely gets a thumbs up from Jaron. I know that for sure. So I there's this. How do I say this? There's basically a following of people that really enjoyed the score of this movie a lot. And Mark, I'm sure you know a lot about that. Maybe you could probably expound more about it. I particularly, maybe I have to go back and watch this again, which I would have no problem doing at all because I love this movie. But I might have to go back and watch this movie again and kind of pay more attention to the score because I didn't really pay too much to the score, the actual music and the background music of this movie. But Mark, can you tell us a little bit about the score of this movie and if it's been compared to the other two as well in terms of this trilogy?
Oh yeah, definitely. Ennio Morricone was this definitely provided a lot of good mood and everything. It was definitely notable in the grandness of the orchestral way. But and also we had just some interesting little details like if you noticed, like there was some whistling in the things, and that becomes more important later on. And finally, because the next two films that are considered part of the trilogy, and mind you, the only connections really here are Clint Eastwood is the star and he plays a character with no name. The next film is For a Few Dollars More, and then the third is the most famous, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And that music is the immortal music, the doo-doo-doo, ha ha ha. I mean that's where that's from. That's Ennio Morricone. That's his music. So you gotta kind of look at it, retroactively from that, where you go, oh wow, this is that guy. Okay, and then you look at the other movies, and then you realize, oh yeah, this guy really is fucking brilliant. The way it just plays out and unfolds and everything. But yeah, the trademark has got to be the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
In terms of the set, did you guys see anything stand out in terms of like the setting? Did it seem like your average Western movie in terms of like the background and like where they were and stuff like that? Or did any of the stuff in terms of the set stand out to you? Smith, I'll start with you.
Well, in terms of you know buildings on set, I'm a Southwestern man. You can probably see the flag right there. Basically indistinguishable when you get down to the border. And of course, it is like Mark said, filmed in southern Spain. So yeah, just really good stuff there. Like you, honestly, if you were back in the 1960s watching this, I don't think you would have known that this was filmed in southern Spain. So
Makes sense. Makes sense. Mark, what about you?
Well, what I really liked here was that I think to add to the darkness of the theme, I mean, now mind you, there was the John Fordian, Fordian-esque, grand, daylight scenery, daytime, and yet there was this contrast. There was something about the interior scenes where, like the cantina, that was not a fancy cantina at all. It was very, rustic and dingy, and you got that feel throughout with a lot of the interiors. Even the barrel house, and that they beat his ass in, and then he lets loose the giant barrel on the dudes, and
Yeah.
things like that, and then him crawling underneath everything. That those particular scenes where you almost can't see him when he's underneath the boardwalks and everything, but yet he's very clearly shot in that hole from the top when they're looking for him, and you can just see their feet, but you can see his face through there. So yeah, just masterfully done with those contrasts.
And another thing I liked about this movie too was that they didn't make him seem like he was like invincible, because I thought that was going to be one of the things about this movie, was that it was just going to be like I mean, yeah, John Wick gets hurt, but we know John Wick's going to live in the end. At least in the first two movies we got, he was, right? But like this movie, it's like, wow, this guy really is getting hurt. And then you see him turn around, out of nowhere, turns around, puts the fucking machete through the dude's fucking chest. And I'm like, but he's still fucking going hard, man. His dude's still fucking going ham. Never stops. This movie from start to finish was just it's a ride, and it's an amazing ride. And you kind of can't tell. I mean, you can tell, but in the back of your mind, you keep it in the back of your mind that this movie is old. It was made in the 60s, whatever. But at the same time, I'm still sitting. It's amazing that you're watching a movie from 1964. Like, this is before my mom was fucking born. You know what I mean? And you're sitting here in 2021 watching a movie that old and still having a fucking ride. Like, you're still having fun. I love that. Now, I want to get to a part where you guys know what's coming next in terms of one of the questions I'm going to ask, which is, if there was a part from this movie that you could fix or that you would change, what would it be? Mark, I'll start with you.
Well, I'm only going to slightly pivot here. because I think it would be cinephile blasphemy to say that something should be changed in this film. However, not to completely deviate from that. Yeah, I mean, my answer is going to be pretty obvious, though. I mean, if I had my hands on a remake, like if I was a director, I don't know, crazy billionaire money, I wouldn't try it. But I don't know. I mean, of course, there'd be more blood. I mean, and this was pretty violent for the times. But yeah, man, more splatter for the shots taken and things like that. Just a little bit. Yeah, that probably would have added some. But wow, there's really not much I could change. I don't really know how I could do a remake to justify it, other than tweaking up some of the violence. So yeah, that's my very lame
that
answer.
remake is coming. The remake is coming. You already know.
Yeah.
We're in the age of reboots and remakes. It's coming. Yeah. It's in somebody's back pocket right now.
Yeah, I mean, this film was also, like you said, it was a reboot of Yojimbo. There was also a Bruce Willis film called Last Man Standing, which was about a 1930s era gangster kind of movie, but it was the same kind of thing. It was the same kind of plot where, Bruce Willis, strange man comes into town, pits two feuding factions against one another. So, and I forgot, if The Mandalorian hasn't already done it, I'm trying to remember the plots from that. They probably will.
Yeah, because they've hit every Western trope out there.
Yeah, they've kind of done, just.
And a little bit off topic, but I still don't understand the whole Western comparison between Mandalorian and other Westerns. I mean, a little bit, but not really. But I guess that's a conversation for another time. That's a whole another rabbit hole. But Smith, what about you? If you could change or do anything to this movie, what would it be?
Well, the violence is good enough, I think, but the blood definitely, especially when you see it on some guys' faces and it's like bright neon red, it's a bit of a problem. But what I would change here is his relationship with, or his interactions with the Baxters, because really, I know there's supposed to be two crime families or whatever, and one of the leaders is the sheriff or whatever, but I really don't harbor any hate for that side. Like, there's nothing that they do in the movie where it's like, oh, these guys are kind of bad. It's like, oh, I guess they just get killed, And then, not to mention, he kills 4 of their men, and then afterwards he, John Baxter doesn't even bat an eye when he shows up again. Like, they're striking a deal. It's like, oh yeah, whatever.
True, and you know what? I have to caveat off of that too and say, that would probably be a part that I would fix, is the Baxters, because throughout that movie, and this tells you how good they are at storytelling, how good Sergio Leone is good at storytelling, is that I didn't even think about that, not once, until you actually said it. It was like, yo, the Baxters, they're supposed to be bad too, but they ain't do shit.
All they did was shoot at his mule. That was it. The worst thing he did.
And so, I mean, I have to caveat off of that, because I was going to say, although, yes, the blood, the violence, there could have been more. But, we're talking about the 60s too. And the same thing with the Baxters. It's like, I mean, I'm not saying storytelling wasn't great back then, but, they were a little bit less detailed back then, a little bit, in terms of, details of the movies, or at least on the plot. But, I would say, if you're going to, because I'm not saying in terms of Clint Eastwood, I'm not talking about in terms of, the man with no name, because they did a good job with building up the Rojo brothers. They did a good job building them up. But the Baxters, like you said, Marisol, I think they did more character development with the old man, John. I forget his name, John Eggers or John Eggers. I ever say his name? The old man from Austria. Look, I think they did more building up with his character than they did. He had more screen time than I felt like than anybody else in the fucking movie. But yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you on that. Now, I do want to move on to the favorite parts of this movie. And again, like I said before, my favorite part of this movie is the part where the only part of the movie where I felt like, oh shit, how is he going to get himself out of this situation? And I think not just with Westerns and not just with horror movies, but I think with action movies, with any kind of movie, whenever your main character gets put in a situation and you are in that audience chair and you're sitting there and asking yourself, how the hell are they going to get out of the situation? To me, this was it. Like, I was like, oh man, this is actually a really good movie because I'm sitting here trying to figure out how is he going to get out of this situation? How is he going to get out of there? They just beat the shit out of him, could have killed him, and instead they just leave him there to fucking die because they want to get some answers out of him. And then he pulls this shit. So I want to ask you guys, what was your favorite part of this movie? And Mark, I'll start with you.
Oh, undoubtedly the climax. I mean, talk about
that's
iconic.
Always the best part, though, right?
You know, I mean, yeah, but hey, not always. You know, I mean, we reviewed quite a few films where, I mean, the last film we reviewed, Freddy's Dead.
Oh no, I
you know,
I throw a dirty joke in there, but yeah.
But oh, I see. Okay, okay, but yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, though, you know, of course, I mean, he blows up the building with the dynamite, creates this huge cloud of smoke, and then comes walking slowly out of the cloud of smoke. And then you've got like the showdown to end showdowns. I mean, you know, often copied, you know, never duplicated, you know, often imitated, never duplicated. I mean, talk about the definition of that here, you know, because, you know, yeah, it wasn't the first Western showdown, obviously, but the close-ups, the expressions, the eye twitching, you know, the squints, the hands near the guns, all that stuff. We've seen that so many times, but this is it. I mean, and now that you can't, you know, look, I will admit, you know, often the original is the best, but not always. I mean, sometimes the original can launch something iconic. Somebody can improve on it. Yet I don't recall if I've ever seen an improvement on this, just because it just hits the beat so well. It just all be, you know, bam, 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 over and over, and then just, yeah, I mean, it's breathtaking. You know, just the photography in it, the acting, and it's so minimalistic, but it just speaks volumes. So, I mean, how much more could I say about it? It's just breathtaking, and yeah, so I can't get much past that. I mean, there's so much I like about this movie, but come on.
Yeah, this, you know, it's like they never let their foot off the gas with this movie, and that says a lot for this movie being pretty much 2 hours too. Like they never let off the gas in this movie. Smith, what about you? What was your favorite part of this movie?
Didn't even realize this was a 2 hour movie till you just said that. Felt like 30 minutes.
Like you, yeah, no, it's such a good movie that we just like some of these minor things, like these nitpicking things, we just don't realize, you know.
Well, I'm not going to. I mean, obviously, favorite scene is the mule thing, but we've already talked about that. So I want to bring up what little backstory you get from the man with no name. There's two instances. The first one, he just got to the Rojo's house, and someone's like, "Yeah, make yourself at home." And he's like, "Never liked home, but okay." Right. So something to that effect is what he says. And then when he just murdered all those people in the little house, and he's setting the lady and the boy free. And he's like, you know, I was in the same position once, and there's never anyone to help. So that's literally all you fucking get. And those scenes, it means a lot because that's literally all you got.
Yeah, but brilliant minimalism.
just enough though. Like, okay, he had a bad childhood, but he doesn't. It's not like a
whole flashback.
Yeah, or like where they're super jaded and edgy and they bring it up constantly. Like they didn't do that. So you know.
George Lucas should have watched this film before he started writing The Phantom Menace.
Oh my god!
You know, because he ended up making 3 long movies that were background. 2 sentences. That's all the stranger needed.
Oh my god! Look, I mean, you're not wrong. Let's be real, you're not wrong. And this is coming from somebody that actually enjoyed the prequel trilogies. You're not wrong at all. um, damn, I forgot where I was even going after that. God, holy shit. Jesus Christ. What were we? Oh yeah. Okay, so in this movie, and I'm not trying to say like this could be a bad part, but in this movie, like you said, Smith, there's things that we actually kind of missed only because it was such a good movie. We got such good material in this movie in a 2 hour span. I mean, we didn't know it was, we didn't realize it was 2 hours. We didn't realize that the Baxters fucking sucked when it comes to character development. We didn't realize that Marisol was, I wouldn't say pointless, but kind of pointless in this movie.
Well,
But
yeah, she's the Finn.
go ahead, Mark.
I would just say the
he
only
said
thing I
she's
would
the
argue
Finn.
about that was that if it wasn't for him saving Marisol and Julio and Jesus, he wouldn't have been much of a hero. It gave him a little bit of a heroic act, and that's the thing. It wasn't much, but we didn't need much. Again, another aspect of that minimalism. They didn't want to paint him up as much of a hero, just enough though.
And you and Smith hit it right on the head. Less is more. Think about it. In terms of backstory, we only got 2 hints at his backstory. And it wasn't like how they do now, where it's like every single scene, it's like, this is so dark, like my childhood. And the next scene, it's like, oh, this is so sad, like my childhood. No, you got one line, and that's it. You get one line, you go to the next scene, you forget about it. Just keep that in the back of your head that, okay, there's a reason why this guy is the way he is. That's it. We don't have to be reminded of it every fucking 5 minutes. That's what I love about it. And just like what you mentioned, Mark, there's very subtle hints. You don't have to keep going at it. You don't have to keep poking or pushing that button of emotion. It's like we get the little bit that we get, and that's it. We don't need to see this guy be a hero 24 in the 2 hours of this movie. We can see him be a hero of 5 minutes and say, okay, we understand his position. We understand who this character is and where his morals lie. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. You don't need a long, drawn-out story. You don't need to have a prequel series in order to tell who the man with no name is, because that would kind of defeat the purpose of a man with no name. But look, this movie to me hit it on all cylinders. I mean, because if I had to compare it to a movie nowadays, maybe I'd be like, okay, well, they should have did this, they could have did that, blah, blah, whatever. But looking back at it, it's like there's a reason why this movie is as highly regarded in terms of Westerns as it always has been. So Smith, I'm going to start out with you because I want to know what your grade is for this movie.
You don't know what to expect, huh? I mean, it's getting an A+. It has Clint Eastwood is so demanding, like whenever he's on screen and it's doing the close up of his face, all you see is his eyes and everything else pretty much just fades away. Like without him, I don't know what this movie would have been, but A+.
Sergio Leone's dad, just a little fun fact. Sergio Leone's dad used to be a director of silent film. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but I believe his dad was a director of silent film.
I don't know
which
that.
kind of helps, because I thought I saw that earlier when I was researching a little bit, but I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure it was they were talking about Sergio Leone. But that helped a lot in this film, I believe, because when it comes to imagine having to make a movie with no sound. And then now we have all this technology of sound and all this other settings and stuff like that. Like Sergio Leone was a pretty fucking smart dude back in the day. Had to have been. And to be able to make a movie out of the material that he was given. and to let it resonate with pretty much the rest of the world. To have this movie be made and have it be highly regarded and as significant as any other Western movie. And let alone for it to spark a whole new generation or a whole new era of Westerns called the spaghetti Westerns. So, which I still think is a funny name, by the way, just the name of spaghetti and Western. But anyways, that's just the, but, yeah, I mean, look, Smith, I agree with you. About this A+. This movie hits it on all cylinders. It really does. Mark, I'm going to move on to you. Kind of curious, right. Not really, because I'm sure I know what your grade is too.
Yeah.
Well, what is your grade of this of A Fistful of Dollars?
Well, yeah, this movie is without a doubt within my top 100, even though I don't have that written down. But for sure, and I and I've seen a lot of goddamn movies, so 100 is to be in the top 100 is quite a place when you consider all the films that I've seen. I've wasted my whole life on movies, so so, but yeah, wow. I mean, this is everything that a movie needs to be for me or for anyone, as far as I'm concerned. Like you said a few times, it doesn't stop; it keeps going, and that's the thing. It builds. It just builds momentum. And then, like I said earlier, till you get to the best part, the climax of the film, which is supposed to be the best part. You're supposed to leave the theater or end the film saying, wow. And that's what this movie does. So easy A+. Undoubted.
I want to go back to the climax too, to that final scene, because I feel like it's I didn't say enough about it. I too agree with you on that. That's, I wouldn't say that was my favorite. If I had to pick another favorite on top of my favorite, it would definitely be that. But it's just that one scene where it's just like, oh my God, how's he gonna do it? It's just, I was so intrigued with that one. But yeah, the climax. I mean, like you said, just seeing the close up on the two faces, and then him the reveal of what he had under his what do you call his blankets?
That's a poncho.
Poncho. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm very uncultured, as you all can tell. But so he pulls up his poncho, and you see he's got like the plate under it, and it's just like, man, it just keeps getting better and better and better. And then you see him, he shoots 5 dudes, and then shoots Ramos, when it shoots his hand. And I'm just like, oh my God, dude, this is so fucking good, because it's leading up to everything, and then you see him drop, and then this movie's amazing. And like I've stated, 2 or 3 times at this point, it never lets off the gas, and that's the most important part, because I feel like if there's just a little bit more dialogue from Clint Eastwood, it wouldn't be an A+. If there was no plot and you tried to just put something cool in there, it wouldn't be an A+. But everything was done so right. All the pieces were put in the right spots, and it made an amazing movie. It really did. And I'm glad we didn't have any huge amount of studio interference or production studio interference like we do nowadays, to where people will say, give us the Sergio cut, or give us the Leone cut. Like, no, you got what you got. You got their vision of what the story they were trying to tell. And Sergio Leone, he knocked it out of the park. Clint Eastwood, this guy did it. I mean, I don't know what he did prior to this movie, but I feel like this, to me, is the oldest piece of work that I've seen from Clint Eastwood. So, touche. He did. Bravo. Dude knocked out of the park as well. So, A+ to me as well. I can't remember the last time we've all agreed on the same grade for one movie.
If we ever did.
This has to be the highest rated film so far,
Yes.
like on average.
Yeah. This is definitely the highest average rating on Hap, most definitely. Because I don't think we've all three said A plus, all across the board on any movie. So again, this movie was awesome. It did it. I don't think I even did. We did all three of us do A pluses? Which one was it? Troll Hunter. We didn't agree on that one either. I know we all gave it positive reviews, but I don't know if we all gave it A pluses.
Yeah.
I think, but I think
it might have been slightly a mix, but they were all high. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
You don't have like an Excel spreadsheet or something? You're not keeping.
You know what? I should start doing that.
Yeah.
We
need
have to go back and
map this out. We should do an end of the year wrap up with our grades and things like that.
Okay.
Something to think about.
I'm down. You already know I'm down. But yeah, look, in terms of spaghetti westerns, because Mark, I know you've seen probably at length a lot of fucking spaghetti westerns. And between this starting that era, and between a lot of people saying they got it from the story, at least from Kurosawa. I gotta say, look, if someone gave you the blueprint to make a great movie, and you do what Sergio Leone did, whether he copied or whatever, I'd still do it. So I don't blame whatever Sergio Leone did. I don't blame him for doing. It's not like he said, fuck this guy, I'm just going to take his. No, he still made it his own movie. He still did it in his own way, and he still launched an entire fucking era of a genre. So, with the whole, he took it from Kurosawa, scene by scene, whatever. Look, if you were to tell me that I could start an entire subgenre of superhero movies by taking the blueprint of a drama or sci-fi movie, I'm fucking doing it too. So, I completely, I completely support Sergio Leone in whatever decision he did to make this movie, because it had to be made.
Yeah.
I'm glad it got made, because now I'm looking forward to seeing the sequel. I might just watch the fucking sequel tonight when I go to bed. So who the fuck knows? But anything else you guys want to say about A Fistful of Dollars?
Oh, yeah. I think another thing that we could discuss a little bit is how this Italian director, he takes a story from a Japanese samurai film, and then turns it into, I mean, I don't know how much more American than you can get with the Western genre. It's right there, right? So you take this, this Western, it's part of American history. It's a part of a grand tradition. However, what I really like about it is that when you take it out of that setting, there's kind of a freedom that Leone had, where he's, it's in cooperation not only with his home country but West Germany and Spain. And I mean, if you look at it, if you really look deeply into it, there's a little bit of commentary in there. I don't if whether it was intended or not, because okay, a lot of what The Stranger embodies is the myth of the rugged individualist. And I really emphasize myth, because The Stranger is the character that a lot of Americans think they are and want to be, but they'll never really be, because a lot of that rugged individualist can really pan out to some really bad, negative shit in real life. But it works so well for movies. That's why the U.S. really, and even Canada too. But this whole frontier thing. But probably why it embodied it, because that's what you go to a movie for. The entire, if you can identify with the antagonist, even if the antagonist is something that you could never really achieve. But yeah, definitely, I think, so if you look at it with that aspect and you sort of see that outsider's point of view of the American culture, and then of course ultimately the genre, it just adds so much more to it.
Yeah, like and Mark, I kind of didn't get the last part of what you were saying. I think that was like part of the more important part because you kind of went out a little bit. If you could repeat like the last part of what you were saying, real quick?
Uh, was it where did I go from where the rugged individualist?
You lagged out after you said frontier when talking about Canada a little bit.
Oh well, shit. Yeah. Just well, did you hear about the rugged individualist, the myth
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
rugged
yeah.
individual? Okay, yeah. So I guess from there is that, yeah, Canada, and even Canada, it was embraced by America because this was, something that Americans, a lot of Americans think what they are and what they'll never be and want to be, but they'll never really truly become. But it's that selling that legend. That's what movies are about. When that embodies it, the antagonist. Where you could relate to it, or you kind of want to be that person. So yeah, I mean, if you could sort of see that, and if you could sort of separate reality from fiction, and to sum up this movie, what you have is an outsider's perspective. I mean, outsider as someone who's not an American and not within the country, of this country. I mean, it's not like a teardown, but there's just something there. It's sort of a way that Americans could sort of reflect on what that legend of the rugged individualist really means and how that plays out. And in a way, it's sort of the rugged individualist that maybe there's a thing or two that people that think they are that could learn from this.
True, true. I like to think that a lot of Americans think that they're, the rugged individual. But I like to think that nobody can really keep their mouth shut longer than 2 minutes. So,
Yeah, very un-American, right?
yeah. So I don't think there's any American that can ever be the rugged individual. Smith, did you have anything else to say?
Well, I would just like to say, for anyone who doesn't think that this is a trilogy, like Mark, you don't, right? Three independent films.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, when you put it that way, now I'm like, what? Well, I mean, I just know is that the only thing that really connects the three is that it stars Clint Eastwood and it's a stranger with no name. But
just look at the title of the second film, though. A fistful of dollars, a few more dollars. They have that was not an accident. They have to be connected. I don't know about the good, the bad, and the ugly.
No.
Maybe that's a standalone.
I've heard some people like I've obviously after researching this, like I saw that some people were saying like none of the three are connected. God, I think he's called like Makano or something like that, or something in the second one. Something with an M, right?
Like Americano, like that slang.
Well, yeah, so. Americano is what they were referring to him as in the first one, but
the second one he has like like they called him Joe in this one, but the second one is like something else. I forget what it's called.
Oh, okay. But. I didn't look. I mean, in my defense, and I don't know this for sure. But I do know that the name of this film was changed from the Italian translation is The Magnificent Stranger, and it was changed to A Fistful of Dollars. And like I said, I don't know this for sure, but for a few dollars more, may have been the American release name, or it may have been a marketing title for it. So I don't know, but like I said, I'm not gonna say you're wrong, Smith. I'm just like, if I could defend myself, I guess that is what I would say.
That's a good defense. So now I'm unsure as well.
I mean, there's theories of it. There's theories of, like some of us don't think that these three movies are related, and then there's some there's like, oh, well, they're obviously related because Clint Eastwood and whatever. But I shall see, because I plan on watching these next two. I mean, I've seen Get Back a little before, but I don't think I've seen the second one called. What's the second one called again? I keep forgetting the name of it.
A Few Dollars More.
A Few Dollars More. I'm not gonna lie.
A Few Dollars More.
Not gonna lie. I hate that fucking title. That title sounds so lazy. But I mean, it might have been. I mean, obviously, I'm sure the movie was a huge success, so I can't shit on the title too much. But so this was our review of A Fistful of Dollars, the Sergio Leone film, the first of the No Name trilogy. So, look, let us know what you all think of our review. Let us know what you all thought of the movie. What did you grade the movie? Let us know in the comments. So, without further ado, I am me. This is Smith and Mark. Where can people find you?
Check me out at thewalterpaisleycafe.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as the Walter Paisley Cafe. Mark Plaid or my art business, Spidau. That's SCHPIDAUU.
And I will be putting those links right here in the description as well. So please be on the lookout for that. Without further ado, I am me. This is Smith. This is Mark. We're Half-Ass Pod, and it's the Film Panel, ladies and gentlemen. And we are OUT.